Okay, so this part we will see how to design the hardware for this platform. Since this platform is mainly meant for students, let me explain stage by stage. First is what is called minimum system design. Minimum system means since it is a programmable device, how this or when this controller will start working. As you can see, the right side is the ports, that is port B, port D, port C. These lines, even if you doesn't connect, still this controller works. So right side is all about the options. Even if you don't interface, the controller still works. But the left side, what you can see is the mandatory interfacing. Say pin number 8 and 22 must be ground of this controller, and pin number 7 is the supply. So the supply we are using, either you can choose 3.3 volts or 5 volts. If you are intended to use 3.3 volts, then the microcontroller clock which is connected on pin number 9 and 10 should be 8 megahertz. If you are using this CPU on 5 volts, then this clock is 16 megahertz. So while writing the program in the Arduino also, please select the device, whether this controller you are operating on 16 megahertz or 8 megahertz, because based on that all the functions which you are calling in the program, where their calculations as far as the time is concerned is based on the clock which you have physically applied. So with a 33 picofarad biasing capacitors, a crystal should be connected between pin number 9 and 10, which act as a clock source for the controller. Though Atmel microcontrollers has an inbuilt clock, but since they are based on the RC values, it is a low speed and less reliable. They are temperature dependent, so we always prefer to interface a external clock to this microcontroller. And since this has a inbuilt A to D converter, as you can see, this analog reference voltage is coming from the external outside. So the analog reference is, we are applying again 3.3 volts. It means that all your signals which are the coming from your sensors should be 3.3 volts. At any point of time, if your supply and if your reference voltage is 3.3 volts, then all the interfaces should work on 3.3 volts. If you are connecting your supply and reference voltage as 5 volts, then all your inputs and outputs are on 5 volts. But any case, as far as the current is concerned, as we already discussed, the amount of current these pins can source is maximum up to 50 milliamperes. Otherwise the pins may physically damage. Okay, finally there is a reset pin on pin number 1 of the controller. So it is pulled up to VCC by resistor, but the same also, this pin is also connected as is mentioned, the DTR, that is a signal which is coming from a USB to UART converter. Data terminal ready is one of the pin which is coming from the USB to UART converter. So this is a mandatory interface, a DTR pin from that FT232 IC, so that whenever the Arduino is writing the application program, then it will synchronize this microcontroller to the compiler by using this DTR pin. So that means the USB to UART controller will reset the microcontroller with the help of the DTR. So please understand, this is one of the important pin which is coming, which I will explain in the subsequent slides. So first, how will I load my boot program? Boot program means firmware. Please understand, this is not the application which I am talking. I am talking about the firmware. So in order to load the firmware, that is called one-time programming the bootloader, I am using a USB, as you can see here, a 10 pin head, which is called USB ASP. So maybe on internet you can type USB ASP. You will find a programmer which is meant for programming the Atmel, all Atmel microcontrollers, which is a low cost, hardly $2 you will get it in the market. So this is a programmer, but then it requires a human intervention to load the programs by using some open source tools. But once you program the bootloader in this IC, then you don't need this programmer. Remotely also you can program. So that is the reason why specifically we have chosen this microcontroller and Arduino compiler, is because this can be accessed remotely. A client can access the programs or the hardware remotely. Alright, so whenever you want to test, so this is enough. This circuit, this much circuit is enough to make this microcontroller works. But since finally you want to test it whether it is working or not, it is always better to provide one LED with a resistor to limit the current, interface to some microcontroller pin, and write a program to blink the LED that proves that at least the controller works. That is called minimum system design. It doesn't require any of the interfaces, just a microcontroller with left side connected pins to VCC and ground, and at least to load a application program or a boot program by using a USB ASP, which is, as mentioned, the some of the pins like PB3, PB4, PB5. Once again, a SPI port, which is what is called in-system programming. So ISP. So there is a ISP port on the microcontroller, port B, which is a flash memory, whether it is a bootloader or whether it is a application program, one can load it through USB ASP. So that is enough. This much circuit is enough to test this controller whether it is working or not. Rest of the circuit is all about application development. So my application development is all about my electrical loads, sensors, my communication, and so on. So those are all my optional things, which is not a mandatory. What is mandatory is this much. Irrespective of the application, at least my minimum system should work. So one should basically design, test first this part, or you can even mount on a breadboard and test whether your controller and your bootloader or your application program works or not. Okay, then about the power supply. Though we are using USB for giving the board power, because hardly we require 5 volts to 3.3 volts to make this board works, but still we are also using a DC adapter, 12 volts DC adapter, so that my filament, that is my bulb, which is acting as a heater, is drawing at least 1 to 2 amperes of current on a 12 volts. Also my DC motor, which is a disturbance creating in the heat chamber, is also requires 12 volt supply. So the 12 volts, as we know, USB cannot provide. So my entire digital system is working on USB connector, which I am converting 5 volts into 3.3 volts. But otherwise my heating element and DC fan is working on a DC adapter. There is a choice of opting controller, either 3.3 volts or 5 volts. So you can also have a option on the board, but please understand the crystal you need to select. That 5 volts works on 16 megahertz, 3.3 volts works on 8 megahertz. Okay, then about the application. So this application is all about power electronics. That means heating some chamber, some maybe a boiler, maybe a washing machine, maybe air conditioner, or maybe a refrigerator, something, some heating or some cooling, something, some power has to be delivered. So there's always a no coil, right? How to heat is all about some coil, some resistive element, some inductive element, some energy we have to dissipate. That energy dissipation is always watts, kilowatts of power. So naturally microcontroller cannot deliver that much current. So there is always a driving circuit required between the microcontroller and the load. So the lamp, as you can see, which is a draws around 15 to 20 watts of power. We are using a MOSFET, as you can see, the N channel MOSFET, IRF Z44 or Z48. You can make use of it, where as you can see, the for example your drain to source voltage of this MOSFET can withstand up to 55 volts, and similarly your gate source voltage, means this your gate and source voltage could be up to plus or minus 20 volts. And then the drain current, right, the amount of drain current is up to 49 amperes of current. So in short, the total power dissipation of this MOSFET is 94 watts. So as you can imagine, a microcontroller hardly can source only 50 milliamperes of current, but driving a heater which can be up to 94 watts. So that's the reason where we are using a power transistor, power MOSFET, which can withstand up to approximately 94 watts of power. Or this could be even up to kilowatts of power, megawatts of power. Only thing is this transistor will be something else, which could be IGBT or maybe some other equivalent version of it. All right, so this power circuit, which is a 12 volts and amperes of current, has to be isolated from my microcontroller. My microcontroller is a digital, as you can see, hardly working on 3.3 volts, and how much current, as you can see, 3.3 volts divided by 100 ohms, hardly few milliamperes, right, less than 10 milliamperes of current where it can source, and driving the a lamp which is drawing amperes of current. So this is called optical isolation. Optical isolation means this optically means this LED, light emitting diode, is driving a phototransistor, and phototransistor is driving the MOSFET, and MOSFET is actually drawing the amperes of current through this drain, right? So the drain current may be up to 50 amperes of current. So this is what we called as a optical isolation. And optical isolation means this ground, remember ground 2, and in the previous slide this ground is different. This is a digital ground. If you look at the microcontroller, this ground is different. Everywhere you can see microcontroller ground is a digital ground. And here when I mentioned power electronics means IGBT or MOSFET, all these devices, this ground is different. So there is no electrical connectivity between that is called return path between microcontroller and this power electronics. So it is communication is happening through light is communicating. So naturally there is no current path from this part to this part. So that means even this ground has a lot of noise. Even if this ground has a lot of potential, it won't disturb the microcontroller. The microcontroller ground always has to be at zero potential. And but however, since this fellow is drawing a huge amount of current, it may create some ripple or some noise on the ground. So it will create some potential on the ground, which microcontroller may start malfunctioning. That's the reason where it's very important that when you are developing any power electronic application, naturally you must isolate the digital circuit, including this all biomedical applications, healthcare sector. The human interface has to be isolated from the power system by using optical communication. Similarly, there is a DC motor that is called DC fan, which I am creating some disturbance in my heat chamber. So I am driving this once again by using this PC817 optocoupler, where PB2 is connected to light emitting diode, and this phototransistor is driving this transistor, which is a simple BC547 transistor, can withstand up to a 1 ampere of current, which will drive this a small DC fan. So it's good enough to drive that 12 volts DC exhaust fan. So this is called digital power electronics. How do I interface my digital power electronics to why I is called digital power electronics is because the power delivered to this heating element and the power delivered to this motor is digitally controlled by a microcontroller. So digitally controlled in the sense the pulses which are coming from the microcontroller, what is called as a pulse width modulated signal, in the sense on time and off time of my, that's called duty cycle of the pulse, in short, is controlling either the speed of the fan or the heating, there is a temperature inside the chamber, is controlled by controlling the drain current. So that is the correlationship between pulse and the load. How am I controlling? There are some other inputs. Being a closed loop system, naturally I am supposed to have some feedback. So the feedback can be achieved by using LM35, which is a semiconductor device, can withstand up to 100 degrees centigrade, which is a simple to interface, a 3-pin transistor, VCC, ground and the output. But we also using this system for industrial applications where the temperature could be up to 1200 degrees centigrade. There we are using MAX 31855. This is a thermocouple amplifier, plus it has an inbuilt serial interface, so that we can interface this device to serial peripheral interface, where the data is directly a 12-bit data is directly in the form of serial. So we don't need to have a to D converter in this case. Similarly, there is a LDR which converts light intensity into a electrical signal. Of course, here we require a to D converter, and there is a potentiometer. If at all, if you want to set any value, you can set a value by using a potentiometer. There is a keyboard, though in this application may not be useful, but when a human interface is there, that time you can use this 4x1 keyboard for in order to enter some variables. Once again, LCD may not be useful in this setup, but then in other industrial applications we would like to have a text LCD for displaying various parameters on the LCD. But then, as I mentioned, here the resources are the biggest constraints. We have used a serial to parallel converter, shift register, so that the data from the microcontroller is coming through this PD5, PD6 pins, where is converting into parallel form and interface to this parallel 16:2 LCD. So a lot of my other tutorials talks about LCD interfacing and programming, so you can refer those things. The other part is about time, real time, right? If you want to know seconds, minutes, hours without using microcontroller, it is taken care by a IC called calendar chip DS1307, which is a very simple to interface serial communication. Again, a Arduino compiler has an inbuilt feature in order to write the program for this peripheral. And then my other products make use of this 14-pin connector, so that interfacing between two microcontrollers can be done, so that by using serial communication and sharing some of my pins, where this system act as a HMI to other systems, where my control algorithm is running on other controllers, but this board, since this board has a keyboard, this board has a Wi-Fi, this board has a LCD, this board has a RTC, this board has some other sensing parameters. At least these slow variables are taken care by, by this system. However, my complete control algorithm is taken care by some DSP processors or PIC controller. So interfacing to other boards can be done with the help of this connector. Okay, so finally the communication. So how do I communicate? Since the microcontroller right now is connected to USB port, so I prefer the microcontroller, though it doesn't have inbuilt USB, so I want to use computer's USB to be connected to microcontroller UART. So this FT232 IC, which converts UART to USB communication protocol. So this is a slight requirement, because laptops, computers nowadays doesn't have UART, so we require a protocol converter. But then there's another issue. The issue is, as I already said, that we do not want to use USB ASP programmer for loading the application programs. That we do it only for bootloader, not for the application programs. So naturally, Arduino has an inbuilt feature to load the application programs through USB to UART by using COM port. So there you can see data terminal ready DTR, that is a pin number 2 of this FT232, should be connected to the reset pin, as I already explained in my previous slides. That is here, DTR should be connected to pin number 1. That is how this communication takes place between microcontroller and USB port. And this, as I mentioned, UART port in this microcontroller is pin number 2 and pin number 3. That is RxT of this pin should be connected to once again FT232, and TXT of this pin number 3. So only 3 pins are coming from the microcontroller to USB converter. That is pin number 2, pin number 3 and pin number 1 are connected to this USB to UART converter. That is pin number 1 is connected to RxT, pin number 5 is connected to TXT, and pin number 2 is connected to DTR. That's all. So these 3 are good enough to interface USB to UART. However, for later applications, we also would like to have this board with a Wi-Fi interface. So there are some ICs which are available in the market called some ESP8266 and so on. So the same TXT, RxT pins, instead of USB, you can also connect it to a Wi-Fi device, so that you can communicate to some other IoT platforms, provided you have a router in place and some network internet connectivity is there to that router. So in that case, you can also make use of a Wi-Fi implementation. Or else for short distance communication, the same UART you can also connect it to a Bluetooth like HC05, etc., where for short distance communication it is called network of the devices. So it can be done, your own network. All right. Then about the placement of the components. Placement components is a design issue that we all can understand, that based on the application, how do you want to place the components, where you would like to have a display, where you would like to have a keyboard, where you would like to have a power dissipating device, where you want to have a communication, where you want to have a sensor to be interfaced. This is all about a choice based on the application. But as far as this thickness of the tracks are concerned, as you can see, and the length of the tracks are concerned, these are all the design issues based on how much amount of current you are drawing, and each signal, what is the switching frequency. So based on that, one has to carefully choose the thickness and length of the track, because finally this is all about it act as every copper track act as a resistor. So as you by increasing or decreasing the thickness of the track, you are trying to increase or decrease the resistance of that copper wire, so that the amount of current flowing between the two devices is done through this track. So naturally it depends whether you are connecting a signal from a microcontroller or you are connecting a electrical load to a power electronic device. The difference is because a signal from a microcontroller may be drawing 50 milliamperes at the most. However, a power electronic device may be drawing amperes of current. So naturally the thickness you have to carefully calculate based on the cross sectional area of the PCB which you have selected. So this entire placement design I have discussed in other tutorial called PCB design, so you can refer that. Okay, so let's look at the programming environment in the next part. So before I demonstrate how the system works, before I explain what do you mean by hardware initialization, let us look at the program environment. Arduino, as I mentioned, is an open source platform, widely used platform for students community, definitely not in industrial applications. It is simple in nature, based on C++, though it doesn't use actually a complete C++. Very few commands, very few commands it make use of as a programming point of view. The program here is called a sketch. So whenever we create a template, the template in this compiler is called as a sketch, and the sketch consists of two sections called two functions. One is called void setup and other is called void loop. So that is called sketch. Just you have one has to create we all know every compiler, every language has its own minimum requirement. As far as this Arduino programming environment is concerned, it has only two requirements. One is called setup, other is called loop. So setup is a function runs only once. So whatever you write in this brackets, curly brackets, is executed only once, and the loop, whatever you write in the loop function, is executed infinite number of times. So now you need to decide which part of the code will go in setup, that is one time executable, and which part of the code goes into loop, which is executed infinite number of times. So this is the minimum requirement of the program as far as Arduino is concerned. But rest of the functions, like remaining your application functions, remaining your hardware initialization, like any other embedded C environment. So there is no difference as far as other functions creation is concerned. So as a compiler, it also has an editor to write the program. But as I already mentioned, once you compile the program, since it's not just a simulation on a computer, it is called emulation, but that too without emulator. Please understand, we are not using any external emulators. That's the reason I explained about USB programming done through microcontroller, because this is happening through a bootloader. So in order to make it a USB programmable, we have loaded a bootloader by using a USB ASP, which I explained in my earlier slide. So due to that, the moment here I say upload, then whatever I have compiled program, this binary code is automatically loaded into the flash memory of the microcontroller and will start executing. So you don't need to say run, it will, the moment if you upload, it will start executing the program. Okay, so as I mentioned that very few functions are there as far as this Arduino compiler hardware initialization is concerned. So as you can see, say for example, in any controller, hardware initialization is must. So say for example the digital pins, there are GPIO, general purpose input output pins, are we call as a input output pins. First one has to configure them. Without that you cannot read or write the data. So that configuration is done what is called a pin mode. The mode means the mode here, this could be input or this could be output. So the pin means the name of the pin, as already mentioned, D0, D1, D2, D3, which represents the hardware like PB0, PB1, and so on. That you have to mention D0 to whatever is the number of pin, and the mode, whether it is a output or input. Say for example, when you are connecting a LED, then the mode is you have to say output. But if you are connecting a, like let us say any key is a input, so you have to say mode is a input. So you have to configure the pin of the microcontroller whether it is sending the data or reading the data. Then about actual value, right? Whether the value means the value which you want to send it to the outside world. So there you have to mention the name of the value. So since this is a digital, the value could be low or the value could be high. And which pin, the pin is a variable like D0, D1 and so on. Value could be a binary, either low or high. So that's the reason where I already mentioned that the language is pretty simple for writing, even for the hardware. The opposite case is you want to read the pin. So if you want to read the pin, the like in a switch, right, or any digital input, right, then it is a digital read and the name of the pin. So in this case you don't need to read, you don't need to mention any value, because the value is coming from the outside world. So you have to mention only the name of the pin from where you want to read, and assign this keyword to any specific variable. Then this value you will be storing in the memory of the controller for further processing. And then of course, so these three keywords are meant for GPIO pins, means digital input output pins. Then there are pins what is called analog in nature. So analog means like sensor, where the variable is varying from 0 to some value. So in this microcontroller the value could vary from anywhere from 0 to 1023, because it is a 10-bit analog to digital converter. So whenever you want to read any analog signal, then you must interface that signal to A0, A1, A2, A3. So the name called A0, which represents A to D converter. So there you have to connect it. So the keyword is analog read. You can see you have to say analog read is the name of the function where you want to read the pin. And serial communication, I will explain you in the demonstration program. You also have a print next line, and so on, some delay functions you can make use of in order to use the serial port, that is a UART of the microcontroller. So at the most these 5 commands we will be extensively using as far as hardware representation of the microcontroller is concerned. As you can see the bottom of the slide, if you want interested in some other functions, you can still refer the manual of the Arduino compiler on this website. The further scope or the subsequent tutorials of this platform is about how to make use of the other service or other applications, APIs which are available. So they are maybe commercial platforms, or they may be some open source platforms. These are all about the services which are provided by these various companies. So as we all know now today, service itself is a business. So these are various business models for application developers. So they may be providing the space, they may be providing the computation, they may be providing the tools, they may be providing the APIs and so on. So service itself is a business model for most of the companies. So we will be demonstrating at least some of these platforms as a part of this tutorial. It is also possible to develop some user interfaces, GUI, as a part of this platform, so that like LabVIEW or Scilab, if you want to have your own graphical user interface like a digital storage CRO or a spectrum analyzer or a logic analyzer, where you can have multiple waveforms at a time to be displayed. So it is possible, but then little bit of software has to be developed in order to interface the user interface, graphical user interface. So this slides talks about SparkFun, which is a open source community. You can refer that. Otherwise, some commercial tool also possible, like MathWorks. One can refer either open source tools or the commercial tools based on the application development. For further scope, this I will leave it to the application developers. Yeah, now let us demonstrate about, at least as far as this tutorial is concerned, we'll be demonstrating various sensors and actuators, how to write a program, and then how to, as I mentioned about the platform, which is a client server platform, which is a full duplex platform, which is also connected to a real plant, which is a real-time system. So I will be demonstrating this part, and the subsequent part of this tutorial is about the PID algorithm, which itself is a complex in nature. For several years researchers has contributed. So we will be explaining the mathematical model, that why a PID algorithm is required to control the variable in order to achieve the desired value. So what is the complexity part of it, and then as a part of the real-time system, why do you think that you require a lot of efforts in converting a PID mathematical model into a programming model for a microcontroller? So that will be explained, which is most important part of hardware development, that is software development in a hardware. So that we will see, and finally we will end up this tutorial with some how to make use of these cloud platforms, or you can say these application layers or application developers for or these platforms which can be useful for this kind of a educational purpose, which is a open source in nature. So we won't be using any commercial cloud platforms, but at least evaluation platforms will be demonstrating at least how to make use of it for a global connectivity. All right, so let's look at the programming example. We are not talking about the PID controller. We are just talking about switching on, switching off. It's like an open loop for a specific delay. That's when I explained about the control algorithm, I specifically said open loop versus closed loop system. In a open loop system, I'm least bothered about my output. I'm just only switching on and off. But since I would like to demonstrate the sensing part also, so this program explains about the hardware initialization. The subsequent tutorials will explain about the PID algorithm and its implementation and IoT platform. So in this program, as you can see, there are two sections, as I already explained: setup, void setup and void loop. Whatever you write in this curly brackets in void setup is executed only once. So we prefer the hardware initialization in the void setup, and void loop is the functions which will be keep on executing infinite number of times. So to begin with, in void setup, we have initialized the serial port, because the data, whatever is happening inside the microcontroller, we would like to see remotely. So the data is coming through serial port. So serial port we have to initialize, and whatever we mention in the bracket 9600 is the rate of communication. So between the transmitter and receiver, the baud rate, that is the rate of communication, should be pre-decided. You cannot have two different baud rates between the transmitter and receiver. It's not a choice, it is a fixed. Then about the pin mode, I already explained that the every general purpose input output line has to be configured first, whether it is a input or it is a output. Say for example, heater, DC motor, these are all outputs. So that's the reason where heater means, I already defined what in by heater. Heater means pin number 9, that is a D9 of the microcontroller. If you refer carefully the slides, there I mentioned about the hardware representation. So D9 where my that is where my MOSFET, that is optocoupler port B, PB1 is connected, that is heater is connected. Similarly D2 D10, that is a PB2 where my DC motor is connected. So instead of referring, we don't need to remember the pin numbers, so you can always define as an integer the names versus the corresponding pins, so that in the rest of the program I will be referring them by the names, that's the labels. Alright, so since they are output, I said these are the outputs. And then what is the value which you would like to write? Say for example, if I want to switch it off, right, then DC motor low means it will be write as a 0. Heater off, low is a off. So I mean digital write, which pin what value you want to write is a command. Alright, so this is once the program will be executed. And in an infinite loop, I would like to read what is the temperature of the chamber, and I would like to read what is the intensity of the chamber, and also I would like to control the heater as well as the DC fan. So what are the functions? As I explained in the earlier slide, if I want to read any analog pin, then the syntax for that is analog read, right? Though you have to say analog read, but analog read, there are 6 analog pins are there, so you need to specify which pin where your temperature sensor or LDR is connected. So again, once again, temperature pin, sensor pin, this we have already defined, that is sensor pin, right, is A2. So temperature pin is A1, because compiler understands only these predefined variables. And then, but since it is difficult to remember in the program, we define our own labels and assign these variables to them. Alright, so in the program I said analog read temperature pins, that means actually I am reading the data from A1, that is where my LM35 is connected. And then after reading, I am assigning to some variable, and then later on somewhere I am printing, as you can see, these variables on my serial monitor. So similarly, I am also reading my LDR value, and slight calibration one has to do, because the sensors always give voltage between 0 to either 3.3 or 5 volts, but we need to convert this voltage into its equivalent units, maybe degrees centigrade, degrees or Fahrenheit, or maybe if it is a pressure, or maybe it is a humidity, maybe it's a displacement, maybe it is a speed. So you have to convert into its equivalent variables. So that is called calibration. So one has to implement some mathematical expression in order to convert this a number into its equivalent unit. So once that is done, calibration, or you can say scaling, then by using the serial print command, you can display this variable on the computer monitor. Since the computer monitor is the one which is a server which we are accessing remotely by using some browser like a client, so we can always view what is happening to the variables inside the controller. But then I also said that we can also put it on a cloud platform, so that we will be explaining in the subsequent tutorials. Alright, so serial print always will print the data, and if you want to switch on or switch off, as I said, high means it will be off, low means it will be on, and in between if you want to have a delay function, you can use a delay. But since this wide loop is an infinite loop, this will be keep on happening again and again. So once you write this program, as I mentioned, there is something called compile, that is called verify and upload. So if I click upload, this entire program will be compiled, as you can see, and even uploading also takes place. That means this whole program will be loaded into the flash memory. So now the program, as you can see, done uploading. That means now it is compiled and loaded into the flash memory. Then remotely, how will you see what is happening? So this entire thing is dumped on a serial monitor. So if you can see serial monitor, right, first thing you need to specify is the baud rate. We have said in the program the baud rate, right, is 9600. You also should select the 9600 as the baud rate, right? So as you can see, the temperature is around some ambient temperature, and the LDR output is a light intensity is this much. So this is exactly is happening inside the chamber. But physically also, if you want to see, you can switch on the camera of your server, and you can monitor that. You can see the heater inside this chamber is getting on and off, and the DC exhaust fan, which is a disturbance which we are creating by making on and off. And this is your experimental setup, where as you can see the heater is connected to the MOSFET, which is a power electronic transistor, and this temperature sensor and LDR which are connected to your board, which are the sensing element, and this DC exhaust fan is once again connected to optocoupler, so that there are two optocouplers, one for the MOSFET, other for the DC fan, and this entire operation is taken care by the microcontroller. So this is a small experimental setup where we can verify the real timeness remotely for educational purpose. But we will see in the subsequent tutorials what do you mean by these sophisticated algorithms instead of on off, what do you mean by closed loop control system, and then what is the complex part of it in implementing in a hardware in the loop. And not only that, it is also connected to a real plant, where this is my real plant, where it could be a big chamber, it could be a boiler, and a heater. This instead of a small bulb, it could be a real heating element which could be dissipate some kilowatts of power. So as far as this programming environment is concerned, when you go to tools, please understand that I have selected the board as a Arduino Uno. The reason is I have selected the microcontroller which is Atmega 328P, and then which is operating on 5 volts at 16 megahertz. But if you are choosing some other controllers, then you can choose some different board. Similarly, the port, right now this board, the USB to UART converter, if you go to your device manager, you can see the USB to UART converter is connected, means it is called virtual port. It has assigned a number called COM2. So naturally in your program, when you say before programming in the tools, the port you have to select only the one which is recognized by your computer. And as far as the programmer is concerned, right now we are loading the application program. When I am loading the application program, I have to use AVR ISP MK2. But if I am loading a bootloader, right, when you want to burn the bootloader, that is the first time when you want to burn the bootloader, please remember you must select what is called USB ASP. So you must select this, that is called USB ASP. That's all. Rest of the things are same. Then you can load the bootloader on the board. So bootloader we are loading on the board by using this, as I already mentioned, this header, that is 5x2 header where my ISP is connected. But that is one time to load the bootloader. Rest of the time I don't need this port. I'm through USB of my computer, I'm loading my program. So for while loading the programs, application programs, this is not USB ASP, it is just our by default programmer. So that is as far as the configuration is concerned. As far as the compiler, whenever you have any changes, say for example, instead of this delay, I will slightly reduce this delay, right? So say I will make it 500 on time and 500 off time. So whenever I make the changes in the program, once again I am compiling and uploading the program, and then once that is done, as you can see the program is uploaded. Now you can see even if I say serial monitor, the variables are displayed very fast because I have changed the delay to display these variables. And not only that, even if you physically also, if you see the blinking rate, there is a heating on and off time is also changed. Even this fan speed is also changed. So this right now I am controlling from my server. Right now I have connected to the server. The same thing, this entire operation I would like to demonstrate by using remotely. So by using some other computer, other laptop, where this server I will connect to the client and I will control it. So we will be demonstrating, just be online. So what you can see is that by using AnyDust, we have installed on the server side also, on client side also. What you can see is now the client, that is the SPIT, with a unique ID of 156765536, has requested this server, because server ID is already passed to the client. So the client has requested to that ID that they want to establish a communication link. So naturally the server has to accept the clients. It could be multiple clients also. So I have accepted. Now see the session is started, and as I explained, it has also has a many features of accessing and of the various resources. So now what we can see is I won't be operating the server. Now I will be from the client, I will operate the server. The entire programming, data transfer, everything I will be doing from the client machine. So as you can see, this operation is not happening through from the client side. Even the programming is happening from the client side. Client has modified the program, compiled the program, and client would like to see the data. As you can see now, the same data is displayed on the server, which is remotely accessed by the client, and this client also would like to see physically. We switched on the server's camera, and as you can see, the delay, amount of delay as introduced in the system is huge. So everything is possible as far as this device to machine communication is concerned. We will be elaborating more on this in the subsequent tutorials. Alright, so now client would like to terminate the connection of the server. That's all. That means again for a new session a request has come. So this is how, as I mentioned, we can have a client server communication where a server is connected to a resource which is a real plant or a experimental setup. It could be anything. Okay, thank you for your patience, and we will see in the remaining tutorials how these PID algorithms and IoT applications can be implemented.